On a cold winter day in Chicago, I took a day off work for my yearly exam. I smiled when my doctor of 10 years entered the room holding a tablet. The tall African-American man greeted me with a warm smile and assessing brown eyes. "Good morning, Laila. How are you today?" he asked. "Dr. Nunn," I greeted. "Same. Tired, run down. Adjusting to my promotion has been quite taxing." "I see. And when was that event?" the doctor asked, sitting across from me. I frowned, thinking hard. "Before Christmas, so around 10 weeks ago." He murmured and consulted his tablet. "Laila, I don't know if you were trying, but our tests show that you are pregnant." I blinked, my head spinning. "Pregnant? Dr. Nunn, how?" He fought a smile and raised a lone brow. "Of course I know the how part, but..." I shook my head. "Did I forget to take my pill?" "I don't know," he chuckled. "Did you?" I nodded. "I guess so. God, what is Cam going to say?" This was definitely not planned. Cameron David Chandler and I met at a birthday dinner for one of my coworkers, who was Cam's client. He's an accountant and I'm an architect. I bought a home that my firm designed for a fraction of its worth because it was built as a model. We had been together for 2 years and in month 8 Cam moved in with me. Dr. Nunn and I went through the motions of the visit, and I left an hour later with an appointment with an ultrasound tech. I went home and sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea that I didn't touch after I made it. I should have gone to my office, but I needed to think. What was Cameron going to say to this news? I heard keys and finally noticed that the sun had set. I glanced at the clock on the microwave and shook my head. I had been sitting in that spot for at least 6 hours. I rushed to the first-floor bathroom and took care of business. When I exited, I went upstairs to our bedroom and spotted Cameron David Chandler towel drying after a shower. He quickly found pajamas and I realized he was not planning to go out again that night. "I bought pizza, babe, and yes, I got a salad to go with it," he said, sliding on thick socks. I had a taste for Giordano's. "I'll set up everything in the living room. A new episode of The Pit dropped today." I smiled. "I'll join you after I shower." Cameron was typing on his cell phone when I entered the kitchen for a glass of water. I had a large glass and refilled it. Silently, Cameron took the reheated pizza to the living room and I followed with the salad. As soon as we were comfortably seated, Cameron plated a slice of pizza with spinach salad and passed it to me. I just stared at the food after he gave me a fork. "I'm pregnant." I heard coughing, but I could not stop staring at the plate in my hand. "Did you say?" I nodded. "Whoa." I nodded again. Cameron blew out a long, strong breath. "How? When are you due?" "I don't know. My ultrasound is in 3 weeks." "3 weeks," Cameron screeched. "Why the hell is it so far away?" I shrugged. Cameron's plate slammed on the table. "Damn it." I shook, then we went silent for a while. "What are you going to do, Laila?" I blinked at him. "Do?" "Yes. Do you want the baby?" "Of course. Why wouldn't I?" "You look spooked. I thought you were thinking of..." "No," I sighed. "I've been in shock since finding out and I was concerned about what you were going to say and do." "Why?" He frowned. "Did I say something that made you believe that I didn't want children?" "No, but this was not planned. I thought I was protected." "So did I. I do want this baby." "Good." His arm wrapped around me. "Mom is going to be so happy." "So is mine," I giggled and happily kissed my boyfriend. At work the next morning, I kept a smile on my face and several questioned why, but Cameron and I agreed to keep it quiet until I was in my second trimester. I claimed it was due to the approval of the building plans I'd drawn up for our newest clients. It was part of it, but I held in my other news. At home that evening I felt exhausted. I went to bed right after my shower and didn't want any dinner. Cameron said that was not acceptable and made me tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich. After he cleaned behind himself and showered. This was our routine for the next few weeks. At my ultrasound, the tech did the exam and sent me to see Dr. Nunn. "Everything is going well. You have a healthy, growing fetus and are on par for 10 weeks. I'd like to see you again in a month. In the meantime, would you like to see our nutritionist? She can help with a dietary plan or any questions you might have about what you can and should not eat during your gestation." I nodded. "Sure. When is my due date?" "Oh, right. Sorry. We estimate you to deliver around August 4th. Smiling hugely, I called Cameron from my car and told him the news. "So you'll hit the second trimester around when?" 9 days, I confirmed. Mom and Dad are on a cruise, so we'll start telling everyone when they return. We'll have this news to ourselves for just a little while longer. Is that good for you? I don't know, I said. What about my parents? Babe, I don't want any of our parents knowing before the other. We'll have dinner or something with all of them and then we'll tell the world. My dad's birthday is April 6th. Perfect. Oh, and let's figure out which room we need for the nursery. I want to get started on it soon. After Dad cut his birthday cake, Cam offered a toast and revealed our news. Everyone gave us warm congratulations and big hugs, and my dad teased us about marriage. I wanted to marry Cam, but he didn't ask, so I let it lie. That night I made love with Cameron. He was gentle and caring and took his time in giving me pleasure. He said he wanted a shower and after he would get us a snack. I heard the water start. His phone went off with text notifications and they were back to back. I picked it up to shut it off, but one caught my eye. It was from someone labeled Main Squeeze, and she was demanding to know if his ordeal was over. Ordeal? I whispered and unlocked his phone with his code. It never takes this long with me, this person wrote. Answer my text. I scrolled up and sat up in bed, holding the sheet against my naked body. I felt sick reading their plan, then the blatant way she described what she was going to do to him when he finally got to her. But as sick as I felt, I managed to grab my phone and took picture after picture until the water stopped. I laid down again and waited. Cam entered the bedroom with a smile and pulled on a robe. When he left to go to the kitchen, I noted that he took his phone, knowing he was going to return her texts, perhaps call her in my kitchen. I felt tears prickle, but I fought them, laid down and turned on my side. When he returned, I pretended to be asleep and almost gagged when he got into the bed, curved his naked body into mine and kissed my head. The next morning I showered for an hour, and while I dressed, Cameron slept. I glared at him, not believing I ever thought his fucking snoring was cute. Or that I ever loved him. How did I not see what was going on in this man's head? I left the house and went straight to my mom. She was a lawyer and sharp. My dad owned a garage and restored cars. I called him and told him that it was important that he meet me. Mom was in a conference with the other partners in her firm when I arrived, and her assistant left me with a bottle of water in her office. I scrolled my phone while waiting for her, but when my dad walked in, I immediately broke down. He held me on a couch. I heard the door open and I wailed again when I saw my mother on her knees in front of me, begging me to tell her what was wrong. Phone, was all I could say. I gripped my dad and soon heard my mother swear up a storm. Next, I was in her arms and Dad's words were no cleaner than Mom's. Next, Dad's voice rang out with, "Johnson, it's Morgan. I'm calling in that favor. Go to my daughter's home and pack anything you believe belongs to a man. Male clothes, cologne, everything. Burn it all. If a man is there, throw his ass out, dressed or not. Next, change every lock and make sure the cameras are all working. I want that place secured and free of him in 1 hour. You do half off on labor for your next repair and free oil changes for life." When I calmed, Mom asked, "You had no clue of this plan, honey?" I sighed and shook my head while Dad patted my face with a cool towel. Mom snatched up my phone and moved to her desk. "He's not getting my grandbaby," she swore. I leaned on Dad and thought over the text. Cameron was in a relationship with someone and the plan was to get me pregnant, sue me for custody the minute it was born, and in exchange for child support he and this person were going to demand my home. My large 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom home, which I spent every dime of my inheritance to own outright. It was a hell of a deal and offered to me first because I was the designer and I basically built my dream home. "Kyle, get in here," my mom angrily shouted. Her assistant rushed into the room in 3 seconds. "Yes, Mrs. Morgan?" "Restraining order. Cameron David Chandler, Myra Olson Chandler and David Cameron Chandler. Also include James Chandler and Michael Chandler. They are to stay 1,000 feet away from Laila Denise Morgan and her residence, mine, my office and Morgan Auto Restorations. I'm sending you the texts that need to be printed out and sent with the request. Call Judge Holman for an immediate one and do it as you print this bullshit." Does he have any claim on my home?" Mom scoffed. "He won't be able to take a dump in there when I'm done." "Colorful Alina," Dad sighed. "Needed Joseph," Mom snapped. The next morning I found myself in Judge Warner's courtroom. The man was in his 50s and had red hair and probing green eyes. He asked me if it was necessary to file a restraining order against the father of my child. I nodded, and Mom told him what was discovered and passed the bailiff the printouts and a statement from the cell company stating the texts were all sent to and from Cameron's phone. Your Honor, Mom called. Mr. Chandler intends to sue my client for sole custody of their unborn child upon birth, as you can see from the evidence I've submitted. He is in cahoots with someone who is unknown at this time, to do whatever possible to take her property, valued at over $500,000 in place of child support. That's something for the next judge to rule on, but I see your point, Mrs. Morgan. I blew out a relieved breath when the order was approved, but felt fear when Judge Warner said it was only for 90 days. My mother shook her head at me and I immediately relaxed. I sat in the backseat of my dad's car and called my office and spoke with James Donovan, owner of Donovan Designs, and my direct superior since my promotion. He took over our office right before Christmas and my former superior left us for the New York offices. My parents and I went to my house and packed some clothes which were becoming too small. Mom vowed to take me shopping over the weekend to buy things for my expanding belly, and that I was living with her and Dad until she felt I'd be safe at my home. That still hadn't happened when I went into labor at the end of July. I was sitting at a drafting table in my parents' guest room. Mom was in her home office because she, too, worked from home unless she had to be in court. She even held Zoom meetings instead of going to her office. I tried several times over the next 5 months to convince her to go to work, but she was not having it. When she did leave me, she made sure one of my siblings or Dad was able to be at her home with me. My sister was with me when the pain started and she called Mom when my waters broke. Mom was my coach and she took that job seriously. A month after my son was born, I found myself in court again. This time Mr. Donovan was in attendance. He said he was there for support as a representative of our office, because everyone could not attend and all wanted to. With him was a woman who reminded me of Penelope Cruz, and she was dressed in a sharp gray pantsuit and black heels. I had no idea who she was and I didn't think I had the right to ask. I stood in the vestibule with my mother, father, brother and sister who were there to help with my baby if I needed to be on the stand. When I arrived, my son was in my arms, and Mr. Donovan smiled at him as did the woman. I named him Derek Joseph Morgan. There was no way I was going to name him after Cameron or anyone else in that family. I just knew that they were all in on his treacherous plan. Mr. Donovan asked his name and when I told him he smiled at me. Joseph is also my middle name, he informed. That's when Cameron walked into the building with a smug smile. His parents and brothers were right behind him, and all looked like they knew this was going in their favor. Myra Chandler walked right up to me and demanded, "Give me my grandson. I cannot wait to change the boy's full name. How dare you not give him Chandler? I cannot wait to get him away from you." I moved back and ducked behind my older brother who demanded, "Go in and sit down. Leave my sister and nephew alone until the judge decides otherwise." "Come along, mother," Cameron cooed. "He'll be with us by the end of the day and we'll never have to look at either of these people again, including the incubator." Cameron looked at me and snarled, "And I'll make sure of that, I promise." Kyle entered the building and before anyone could say anything he held Cameron's hand and smiled. "I knew it," Mom snapped and said to Kyle, "It was you, Morrison. You told Chandler about Laila's progress and when she went into labor. You were the one who gave me the message from Raina about her waters. That's how he arrived at the hospital before I did." Kyle only smirked at her and then kissed Cameron on the mouth. I felt nothing but I did roll my eyes, realizing this is why he used me. He wanted a child, but why wouldn't the two of them just adopt or hire a surrogate? What was I missing? "I'll take care of you later, Kyle Morrison," Mom promised. "Do I appear worried?" he answered with a smirk. I stared in disbelief as they filed into the courtroom. I wanted to cry but I refused to shed one tear. My boss, who shook his head, went inside the courtroom. I numbly followed and sat next to my mother after I gave my sleeping baby to my sister Raina. Mom was radiating anger and could not wait to get started. During the time I tossed him out of the house until that day something or someone was harassing me in some form about what I'd done to Cameron, but I never thought he was gay or bi. I didn't care either way, but before entering a relationship with me he could have told me he had relations with men. Never mind that he was never truly with me and that he used my egg to get an heir. During her opening statement, Mom revealed that Cameron David Chandler was in line to inherit millions from his grandfather's estate and needed an offspring to claim it all. It was all sitting in trust, waiting on him to become a father. I was the infatuated nitwit who fell into his trap. He couldn't have one with Kyle, so he went in search of a woman who could fulfill his need. I should have been more diligent with my pill, but then again it got me my son who I might lose before the hearing was over. How was I going to function without Derek Joseph's face staring at me over breakfast every morning? Mom also revealed that her investigator discovered that the plan was that he'd find a woman, get her to trust him and manipulate her birth control in any way possible. Cameron switched mine with placebos and I thought I had forgotten to take them. I had been so busy with my new promotion, impressing my new boss and proving that I was the right person that I had wiped all memory of everything but work. I had even forgotten about the celebration of my promotion and the office Christmas bash, where I'd gotten drunk and crashed at the hotel where our firm held the party, because I was pissed that once again Cameron couldn't join us. His boss was making him do the end-of-the-year report, and it was due before their holiday break, so I decided to indulge in the merriment. I recalled that when I woke the next morning, I was grateful that it was not only me who took advantage of the room. Several of my coworkers were passed out in the suite, and I called my mother after noting she had called me several times while I was passed out. It was 10 in the morning when I woke and she was already at her office. I groaned as I listened to her laugh loudly and tell Kyle how I sounded. My voice was raw and deep and my head felt like there were trucks ramming into my brain on all sides. I sighed when the memory of Cameron picking me up came to mind, and he laughed at my hangover and deep voice. I vowed never to have more than 2 drinks, no matter the occasion. I was more than happy that I hadn't had any alcohol before discovering my pregnancy. Mom held my hand under the table as Cameron's overbearing lawyer started his diatribe about how I was already showing signs of being unfit to raise a child. He said that I was on the verge of being an alcoholic, and there were witnesses to my inebriation. I turned to Mom, who squeezed my hand and shook her head. I tried to calm, but this man was painting as an addict. Your Honor, the DNA results are in front of you, and we ask that the child, now known as Derek Joseph Morgan, be placed in the care of the Chandler family and Ms. Morgan's parental rights be permanently severed. Mr. Chandler will agree to accept her home as lifelong payment of child support in place of a stipend. I see, Judge Langford murmured, opening the envelope. We silently watched as he read, and his brows flew in the air. What is the proof that Ms. Morgan's parenting is questionable? During last year's Christmas season, Ms. Morgan participated in a party where the consumption of alcohol quickly spiraled out of control, and she was too inebriated to go home. Your Honor, my client had no idea where she was all night, and when Ms. Morgan finally contacted him, she admitted that she had been drinking all night and had passed out in a random hotel room. It was not all night, I shouted. The gavel banged and my mom tightened her hand around mine. She let it go and stood. Objection, Your Honor. Unfounded. This accusation is unrelated to my client's parenting. She was not pregnant at the time, avoided driving under the influence, and remained safe around co-workers, including Mr. Donovan. Does Mr. Collins have any other evidence regarding Ms. Morgan's alleged substance issues? Mr. Collins stated, currently Ms. Morgan is limiting Mr. Chandler's access to his son, a situation that is anticipated to persist until the child reaches the age of 18. Mr. Chandler seeks an active role in his son's development and upbringing, aiming to support his growth into a productive member of society. Mom asked, how is stripping his mother from his life not going to affect that, Mr. Collins? The judge said, I agree. Where's your evidence, counselor? Well, Judge, Mom continued. It seems to me that your entire argument, Mr. Collins, is that Ms. Morgan is unfit because she attended a Christmas party and drank, just like everyone else. Yet she still had the sense not to drive while intoxicated. Your Honor, is Mr. Collins' client really suggesting that Ms. Morgan is someone untrustworthy to raise a child based on that alone? Please consider that this criticism comes from someone who manipulated her choice of birth control. Mr. Collins no longer looked confident and all the Chandlers were mute. Well, the judge sighed. Ms. Morgan. I stood. Yes, Your Honor. The paternity test reads as follows. There is 0 probability of relation between Derek Joseph Morgan and Cameron David Chandler. What the hell is going on here? You bitch, Cameron shouted. You manipulated the results. Order. The gavel banged. There is no way she could have, Judge Langford declared. There are steps and procedures that are followed. Cameron declared he was leaving and his family stood. Sit down, Mr. Chandler. I have not dismissed you yet, Judge Langford ordered. I looked at my mother and tears fell. She held my waist and whispered, "Were you assaulted?" I shrugged and looked at my toes. I truly had no idea. Judge Langford demanded, "Ms. Morgan? Who is the father of your son?" I shook my head, shivering. "I am." I turned to the back of the courtroom. Mr. Donovan moved to the witness stand at the judge's gesture and was sworn in. I frowned at my boss. I had never slept with him. Judge Langford asked, "Explain, Mr. Donovan." "My firm has 4 locations and I managed the New York office before offering the position to Jesse Vinson so I could return to Chicago. Vinson promoted Ms. Morgan shortly before Christmas. Although I hadn't met her before, I was familiar with her work. We met for the first time at a hotel bar during the holiday party. After exchanging first names and insisting that such encounters were unusual for us, we spent the night together. She left before morning, and our next meeting was on my first day back at the firm, and she did not recognize me. I listened to him and it jogged my memory. I recalled seeing him and was immediately attracted. I had 3 martinis and was going to order another because I was pissed at Cameron for ditching me. I stared at Mr. Donovan, realizing it was his main squeeze he was with he couldn't get out of, who I now know to be Kyle Morrison. I held my head and listened to Mr. Donovan. When I noticed that she was pregnant, I didn't think that it could be mine, even though I knew protection could fail. She assured me she was on the pill and we used condoms. I also discovered she was in a relationship, so when she became withdrawn, I discovered that she had broken off the relationship and, well, you know, office gossip. Somehow, it got around that the ex had tampered with her prescription long before we were intimate, and I decided to make it known that I was a possibility. But Ms. Morgan disappeared, choosing to work remotely, and I have not seen her until today. I called my lawyer, Rosa Gomez, and she suggested that I submit DNA, and she had it tested along with Mr. Chandler. She is also here and I have not seen the results. The woman who was at his side earlier stepped forward, holding a manila envelope. I saw her briefly nod to Mom, and she handed a sealed manila envelope to the bailiff. After a bunch of legal jargon, Judge Langford read the contents. James Joseph Donovan has a 99% probability of paternity. Mr. Chandler, your case no longer has merit, and after reading the report from a court-appointed social worker, I see no cause to remove the infant from Ms. Morgan's care. Mr. Donovan, if you have any doubts, consult with your attorney. The gavel banged and it made me jump. I inhaled when my mother embraced me. Slowly, I turned to Mr. Donovan and he approached me with tears in his eyes. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded. We met at a local diner. My sister said she was going to my house with the baby so that we could talk in private. My parents and brother were also going there. We sat and I ordered a glass of iced tea and he asked for coffee. I sipped my drink and sighed. "Mr. Donovan?" "James." I swallowed. "James, I had no clue. I forgot the entire night and no offense, everything that happened with us that night. No offense taken, since it's clear that after you left me, you had a few more drinks." I nodded. "Too many. I'll never do that again." "That's a good decision." I had another drink and whispered, "Please don't take my baby away from me." "No, Laila," James sighed. "I don't see a need to pull the same shit that Chandler tried today. I want to help with his care, that's all. I'm 40 and I've been ready to be a father for 15 years. I tried with my ex-wife but it just didn't happen. It was over with us a few years ago, but we didn't divorce until she met someone she wanted to be with." I nodded and suggested we order lunch while we continued our conversation. We agreed on several things while we ate, then I took him home and smiled when he held the baby close to his chest and kissed his head. Later, he informed that he wanted to call his mother and ask her to fly in from New York to meet her only grandchild. He asked if I was okay with that plan. Feeling he'd never attempt anything Cameron tried to do, and consented. When Millie Donovan arrived, she treated me with respect, and I insisted she stay with me during her visit, giving her more time with Derek. At the end of her visit, I agreed to change his name. He was now James Joseph Donovan after his father. Everyone loved the change, especially my father, who the name Joseph came from. James and I got along well and we discussed everything before making decisions about our son. He rented a house 3 doors down from me and was at my home before Jimmy opened his eyes in the morning and left right after he closed them at night. We talked and got to know one another better and went on our first date when our son was almost a year old, which was James' 41st birthday. He invited me to celebrate with him, and since I still worked remotely and needed to go out, I accepted. We dropped off Jimmy with my parents and I had a good time with James. He was attentive, generous, and kind the entire evening, and he was that way each time when we went out on a date. A week before Jimmy's second birthday, I discovered that I was pregnant again. When I told James, he held me tightly and cried with happiness. Next, he called his mother and she informed us that she was moving to Chicago before our new arrival. "That sounds good, Mom," James laughed. "While you're here for Jimmy's birthday, I want you to help me convince Laila to elope." I gasped. "James, will you?" he asked, producing a ring. "I was going to ask after Jimmy's party, but this news makes me not want to wait. Marry me soon, Laila, please." I nodded, tears streaming. "Of course." Millie said she was calling my mother right then and making arrangements for us to wed while she was here, and when James put his phone down, I kissed him. Our wedding was simple and beautiful, surrounded by the people who mattered most. As we exchanged vows, I realized how far we'd come, from confusion and new parenthood to a loving partnership. With Jimmy's laughter echoing in the background and the promise of another little one on the way, our family felt complete. Life continued to surprise us with little joys and challenges, but together James and I built a home filled with warmth, trust, and endless love. No matter what the future held, I knew we'd face it hand in hand, grateful for every moment that brought us here.